Napoleon Bonaparte was born in Ajaccio, Corsica. This was on the 15th of August, 1769. His family, the Bonapartes, were part of the minor Italian nobility. Corsica had only recently become a French territory. This fact certainly shaped his early views and identity. He often felt like an outsider when he was in mainland France. He received a scholarship to attend military school in Brienne-le-Château. Later he studied at the prestigious École Militaire in Paris. He was known to be highly intelligent, though he was often a solitary young man. His Corsican accent was quite noticeable to his peers. His early military career began during the French Revolution. This period of great upheaval provided many opportunities. Ambitious and talented young officers like Napoleon could rise quickly. He demonstrated his considerable skill in artillery. His first significant military success came at the siege of Toulon in 1793. He skillfully planned and executed the recapture of the city. It had been taken by royalist forces and their British allies. This important victory earned him a promotion to brigadier general. He achieved this rank at the young age of 24. His military star was clearly ascending. In 1796, Napoleon was given a very important command. He was to lead the French army in Italy. This army was in a poor state when he arrived. The soldiers were badly equipped and their morale was low. Napoleon, however, was a charismatic leader. He inspired his troops with powerful speeches. He promised them honor, glory, and the spoils of war. He went on to win a series of stunning victories. These were against the Austrian forces and their allies. Famous battles like Lodi and Rivoli cemented his reputation. He became a celebrated hero throughout France. He also proved to be a skilled negotiator in political matters. After his military campaigns in Egypt and Syria, Napoleon returned to France. He found the country in a state of political instability. The Directory government, which was then in power, was weak. It was also deeply unpopular with the French people. Napoleon astutely recognized this as his opportunity to seize power. In November 1799, he orchestrated a coup d'état. This event is famously known as the coup of 18 Brumaire. He successfully overthrew the failing Directory. A new form of government called the consulate was established in its place. Napoleon became the first consul, effectively holding the reins of power in France. This pivotal moment marked the end of the revolutionary decade. As first consul, Napoleon worked hard to consolidate his power. He brought much-needed stability back to France. He implemented significant reforms to centralize the government. He also improved the nation's struggling economy. His firm leadership helped to end the political chaos. This chaos had plagued France during the later years of the Revolution. His popularity among the French people grew immensely as a result. In 1804, he decided to make his authority permanent and hereditary. He crowned himself Emperor of the French in a lavish ceremony. This took place at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Pope Pius VII was present, but Napoleon famously took the crown. He placed it on his own head, symbolizing his self-made power. Napoleon was undoubtedly a military genius. His understanding of strategy and tactics was profound. He was known for moving his armies with incredible speed. This often allowed him to surprise and outmaneuver his enemies. His Grande Armée was one of the most formidable fighting forces in Europe. He achieved a string of remarkable victories. The Battle of Austerlitz in 1805 is perhaps his most famous. It is often called the Battle of the Three Emperors. Here he decisively defeated the Austrian and Russian armies. He also crushed the Prussian forces at the Battle of Jena-Auerstedt in 1806. These victories greatly expanded French power and influence across the continent. Napoleon's military successes fundamentally reshaped the map of Europe. He created new kingdoms and states. He often placed his relatives and loyal marshals on their thrones. The ancient Holy Roman Empire was formally dissolved in 1806. In its place, he established the Confederation of the Rhine. This was a league of German states under French protection. He exerted control over Italy, Switzerland, and large parts of Germany and Poland. He also imposed the continental system. This was an ambitious trade embargo. It aimed to cripple Great Britain by closing European ports to British goods. Britain, however, remained his most steadfast and resilient enemy throughout his reign. Beyond his military conquest, Napoleon introduced many important and lasting reforms. The most significant of these is the Napoleonic Code. This was formerly known as the Civil Code of 1804. It provided France with a single unified set of laws. This code emphasized principles such as equality before the law. It also protected property rights and promoted religious toleration. He also reformed the French education system. He established the lycées, state-run secondary schools. He centralized the nation's finances with the creation of the Bank of France. These reforms had a profound and enduring impact. They influenced not only France, but also many other countries around the world. In the year 1812, Napoleon made a critical and ultimately disastrous decision. He chose to invade the vast Russian Empire. Tsar Alexander I of Russia had withdrawn from the continental system. He had also resumed trade with Great Britain, defying Napoleon. In response, Napoleon assembled an enormous Grande Armée. It consisted of over 600,000 soldiers drawn from France and its allied states. The Russian forces, under Barclay de Tolly and later Kutuzov, adopted a strategy of strategic retreat. They avoided a decisive, large-scale battle. They also employed a scorched earth policy. This involved burning crops and destroying supplies to deny them to the advancing French. Napoleon's forces managed to reach Moscow in September 1812. They had won the bloody Battle of Borodino on the way. However, they found the city largely deserted. Soon after their arrival, extensive fires broke out, destroying much of Moscow. Napoleon waited in the smoldering city for several weeks. He expected Tsar Alexander I to sue for peace, but the Tsar made no such move. With the harsh Russian winter rapidly approaching, Napoleon had no choice. He ordered a retreat. This retreat from Moscow became one of the great disasters in military history. His soldiers faced starvation, extreme cold, and constant attacks from Russian troops and partisans. The catastrophic losses suffered during the Russian campaign severely weakened Napoleon. His aura of invincibility was shattered. His enemies across Europe saw an opportunity to finally defeat him. Great Britain, Russia, Prussia, Sweden, and Austria formed a powerful new alliance. This was known as the Sixth Coalition. They mobilized their forces against the depleted French armies. The decisive confrontation came at the Battle of Leipzig in October 1813. This was also called the Battle of Nations due to the many states involved. Napoleon was heavily outnumbered. He suffered a crushing defeat. This major loss forced him to retreat with his remaining forces back towards France. Following the defeat at Leipzig, the Allied armies relentlessly pursued Napoleon. They invaded France from multiple directions. Paris, the French capital, was captured in March 1814. Faced with overwhelming odds, Napoleon was compelled to abdicate his throne. He was subsequently exiled to the small Mediterranean island of Elba. However, his story was not quite over. In February 1815, he daringly escaped from Elba. He landed in France and began a remarkable return to power. This period is known as the 100 Days. He quickly raised a new army. The European powers, alarmed by his resurgence, immediately declared war. The final, decisive battle took place at Waterloo in Belgium on the 18th of June, 1815. There, Napoleon was conclusively defeated by the Allied forces. These were commanded by the Duke of Wellington and Gebhard von Blücher. After his final defeat at the Battle of Waterloo, Napoleon's reign as emperor was definitively over. The victorious Allied powers were determined to prevent any future return. They decided to exile him to a much more remote location. The place chosen was the British-controlled island of St. Helena. This small, isolated island is situated in the South Atlantic Ocean. It was thousands of miles away from Europe. This made escape virtually impossible. Napoleon arrived on St. Helena in October 1815. He was to spend the remainder of his life there. He resided at Longwood House, which was often described as damp and uncomfortable. He was kept under close guard by British soldiers. Napoleon spent his last 6 years on St. Helena in relative isolation. He was, however, accompanied by a small retinue of loyal followers. During this period of confinement, he devoted much of his time to dictating his memoirs. He reflected extensively on his extraordinary life. He recounted his numerous military campaigns, his great victories, and his significant defeats. He also discussed his political achievements and his vision for Europe. His health gradually declined during his exile. He frequently complained of abdominal pains and other ailments. Napoleon Bonaparte died on the 5th of May, 1821. He was 51 years old. The official cause of his death was recorded as stomach cancer, though debates have sometimes arisen. The legacy of Napoleon Bonaparte is extraordinarily complex and continues to be widely debated. On one hand, he is remembered as a remarkable reformer. His Napoleonic Code had a profound and lasting influence on legal systems in France and across the world. He modernized the French state, its administration, and its education system. He was a patron of the sciences and the arts. He brought order and stability to France after the turmoil of the Revolution. To many in France, he remains a national hero. He restored French pride and established France as a dominant power on the European continent, at least for a time. So, was Napoleon a hero or a tyrant? It is difficult to give a simple answer. He was undeniably a military genius of unparalleled skill. He achieved incredible victories and brought glory to France. However, his relentless ambition and constant warfare came at a terrible cost. The Napoleonic Wars resulted in the deaths of millions of people across Europe. He ultimately subverted many of the democratic ideals of the French Revolution. He established an authoritarian regime and crowned himself emperor. He suppressed political dissent and maintained strict control over the press. For the nations he conquered, he was often viewed as an oppressor. His legacy, therefore, is a powerful mixture of revolutionary achievement, enlightened reform, and devastating tyranny.